right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get it each.
What are we talking about? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play. Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40! Can't wait! Let's go!
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Tuesday night. That means it's time for the Big Three. Tonight, only got Jake and myself. Brett is enjoying the Bucks, watching Doc Rivers knock off the rust of his coaching chops as he gets ready to coach the East All-Stars this weekend. Now, I'm sure Brett's having the time of his life. I mean, you get to watch Giannis live. Who wouldn't enjoy
good
that?
Stuff. No, that's good stuff.
Yeah. Can't be mad at that. But yeah, so it was, like I said, just Jake and myself, but still have a great show for all of you. Still have our topics, we'll have our laughs and all that kind of fun. Daniel Bear's going on already in here. What's up? So, this past weekend had the Super Bowl. Obviously going to deep dive into that later on in the show. As the NFL season is over, it's kind of a weird period in the sports calendar because, yes, the NFL will kind of here and there make some news with, still got the draft coming up, you still have combine, all that, so it's still there, kind of in the background, but I guess the NBA kind of takes over from here until the baseball fans kind of come out of the woodwork for their season. So we still have plenty to talk about. We'll get into all that. But before we do, Jake, how are you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing bummed the football's over, but glad that we had a good Super Bowl. Good, second half of the Super Bowl was really entertaining. Excited to be here, talk sports, talk NBA, have a big open discussion about the Super Bowl and everything that kind of we learned from it. But I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. It was for somebody not having a team in the game itself. I just wanted to see some drama, see a good matchup, and I got that. So for me, it checked all the boxes. Although now with the season being over, now the mentality is like, how does my team now get back there? Like, what are they going to do? So, but yeah, sad the NFL is kind of over, but it's not really, because like I just said, the NFL makes it a 12-month-a-year business. So the minute you even want to think about forgetting about the NFL, oh yeah, pro days or combine stuff and all that. So yeah. But like I said, we're gonna get into the NBA first. So let's go ahead and get started with our first topic. Pulling up here. So we got the Golden State Warriors. I mean, they were a team. Oh, what's up, Jory? See you in the chat. They were a team that I think a lot of people kind of counted out. But now if you look at them, they've won 5 in a row. They've won 7 out of their last 10. They seemingly have figured out their Klay Thompson problem, and Klay Thompson has kind of come under the realization that, yeah, I think I'm not the same Klay anymore. Whereas he was kind of stubborn to taking a lesser role. Now it seems like he's embraced it. Draymond had his absence. He's come back. He's playing well. Interesting enough, he had a rematch with Nurkic that got a little chippy. But I guess he didn't cross the line. He definitely danced with the line. He didn't cross it. which I feel like, hey, maybe he learned something. We'll see, because it seemed like he was getting a little close to maybe crossing the line a little bit, but he didn't. Gotta give him credit for that. Steph Curry's been his normal Steph Curry self, but looking at the Warriors, do you think that maybe they figure this out and could actually make some type of a second half run and move up the standings now? Or you think that it's a nice little period here, but their deficiencies will rear their ugly head once again?
When it comes to the Warriors, the first thing is you can't really ever count out Steph. It's really dumb to just count out the Warriors and count out that organization. And as long as he play well, it's just really hard because he's just so good at what he does. I expect the Warriors to maybe not necessarily continue like a 7-3 record every 10 games, but definitely be playing well above 500 basketball. Try and maybe get into the 7-6 range. They could probably make a fight for that. As far as making serious noise to being a contender in the West, I don't think they have. They still don't have a whole lot of size. They struggle when it comes to rebounding battles, but they've kind of weathered the storm. They had a rough start. Klay Thompson trying to figure out how to get to a good, consistent form ever since those injuries. And then we had the Draymond, suspensions that we've gone through. They've kind of had some time to let it and kind of, wait out and go through all the drama that they went through, and it's kind of settled down. So do I expect them to end the season with a home court advantage in the first round? No, not at all. That's way too much to make up. But I think their ceiling for the second half is to fight for that sixth with the playing tournament, because that they don't want to go into a 7-game situation. A couple of years ago, they went into the playing tournament and missed out second half of that season that they had. But it's good. It's good. The NBA is so much better when the Warriors are playing well, when they're fun to watch. And I think the big difference here is that Clay's really been able to gauge and accept his role. He knows that he can't do what he used to do, but he's still good at being a knockdown shooter. He just can't do a whole lot of the other things that he used to do. And he still has a huge value, not just to the Warriors, but to the NBA in whole. And accepting that role and that change that his mentality has been a big key factor for their recent success.
Yeah, I feel like we've talked about Klay Thompson because, like you said, like I said, him embracing the new role makes it so much easier on Steve Kerr in terms of putting lineups out there and everything like that. Also, you got to give credit to some of the young guys who've actually stepped up. Kuminga has come on lately, and I feel like we talked about even before the season started that the Wiseman-Kuminga experiment was supposed to be the Warriors' way of transitioning from, this big three that they've had so many years into the new wave with the Warriors. Wiseman didn't work out, which put a lot on Kuminga, and he struggled early on, but you gotta give him credit. He's really come on lately. Gary Payton II has really stepped up. The young guard, I know I'm gonna butcher his name, but like Pajemski, I think.
Yeah, I can't pronounce that name either, so you're good.
I mean, you know what I'm talking about. But he's been a really good surprise in addition to the team as well. So they're getting a mix of the veteran with some youth, and I feel like that was going to be the biggest telltale sign for the Warriors this season of whether or not they could compete in the West. And now that they're finally kind of figuring things out, they're going to be interesting to watch after the All-Star break. Can they keep this up? Can Draymond stay on the court? Can Klay continue in his role producing? Because if he is even a bench guy and he has struggles some nights, then you probably see more of the same of what was at which game was that? The Timberwolves game or something where he completely sat out the last 7 minutes.
Yep.
And you don't want to see that with Clay, especially with Clay having to deal with contract talks after the season, which I think the whole bench role thing, maybe that makes it easier for the Warriors to keep him. I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out at the end of the season. But yeah, like you said, it's just interesting to see the Warriors playing better basketball because they're going to be on TV a lot. You don't want to see a struggling team constantly in front of you. So if they can make some noise at the bottom of the West, make it a little interesting in the first round, fine. But like you said, there's lack of size is still going to be a problem against a lot of the teams at the top of the West. I mean, Minnesota has bigs. Denver, you have Jokic. Oklahoma City, you have Chet, who is not the biggest guy in terms of weight or anything like that, but he's still a big that they would have to deal with.
No, he's tall.
So
No, he's good and he's tall.
Right. Now, maybe with a guy like Chet, maybe a Kuminga or something might be able to handle that a little bit better. But yeah, I don't know. They're definitely going to be interesting to watch in the second half. I will say that. I've got Steven here in the chat. What's up, Steven? Warriors are going to be a team that nobody doesn't want to play against in the first round. Good point. And if Green calms down, the Warriors will be fine. Well, we know he's not going to completely calm down. But like I said, what he did against Nurkic, against Nurkic, they got close a few times, kind of jawing at each other. I will admit, the Nurkic doing the too small, slapping the ground, then Draymond going right back at him, laying it in over him and doing the same thing. It made me laugh a little bit. So if that's what we get post-suspension from Draymond, he'll be fine. He just has to watch the little extra stuff. So
for sure. No, they're going to be a really interesting team to watch. I'll just ask this real quick, both to you and to the chat. Right? Teams are Sacramento, Dallas, Lakers, and Warriors. If that holds out, which team scares you the most in the playoffs? It's the Warriors. The team that I would not want to play if I'm a higher seeded team. That's a team that I'm worried about getting hot at the wrong moment or hot at the right moment for them and just having experience. The Lakers don't scare me. I'm not particularly scared of Sacramento because of their defense. Dallas, I can't trust. The Warriors that I wouldn't want to play of those four playing teams. That they can just keep this going. They could maybe make a first round upset. Who knows?
I mean, I think each of those teams presents somewhat of an issue in a certain way. Like, if you look at Sacramento, Fox and Sabonis are dynamic. Keegan Murray is able to go off on a certain night. They have the experience from last year, which I guess they could maybe rely on a little bit, so they wouldn't be an easy out. But I get what you're saying. Now the Lakers, look, the Lakers will go as far as AD's health will take them, and so far he's been pretty healthy this season because, look, LeBron gets a lot of the attention, but AD is probably more important to that team right now.
Absolutely.
Than LeBron
Absolutely.
Is. He's the one paint defender you can rely on. And offensively, he's maybe the most versatile offensive player that they have. So if he is upright, good to go, who knows with them. I mean, Dallas, you have the Luka factor. I mean, in any series, Luka could just go off and win you some games. So I don't know. The West is gonna be interesting to kind of predict once we understand the matchups, because even at the top of the West, outside of Denver, like, which team are you really confident in? I know a lot of people love the Clippers right now. They're also the Clippers.
They're the Clippers. It's tough to trust them. Yep.
Right. We've seen iterations of the Clippers be really good in the regular season and then fade in the postseason. Now, yes, this is a different group. Kawhi's been there and done that. I agree, and he's been healthy. Paul George, I mean, James Harden. Look, I'm never going to depend on James Harden in the postseason. So,
Nope.
yeah, the West would be completely wide open. Let's see. Yeah, caught up in everything in the chat. But yeah, I mean, you have a last word on the Warriors before we move on.
No. Just you make good points for all the other teams. AD in the Sabonis and Fox for the Kings, but they also have Curry and the Warriors that can just go off for 60,
Yeah.
like we saw not that long ago. And of all, I'm most fearful of him for going just nuclear. Even at his age, he can just get it when he wants to. So it'll be interesting. I think deep may not be the most top heavy, but it's just going to be a complete slog to get to the finals for all 8 of those teams. It could go any number of ways.
Mm-hmm.
See what matchups we get and what storylines come from it.
Yeah. I mean, last word probably could be the key is going to continue to be Clay's acceptance of a lesser role, and those young players have to keep this up the rest of the year. Like the margin of error for the Warriors is pretty thin right now because of their roster construction. So if everything's going well, they'll be fine. If not, it might be a little quiet out there. Siden's in the chat. What's up, Steven? I feel like we had this last week where John was like jumping the gun on all of our topics. Steven's asking.
You got the script, man.
Did good at the trade deadline. I guess he did. Green, that guy needs to chill out. I guess. Let's see. Oh, looks like my little graphic thing. It's like timed out or something. Oh, I gotta fix that. I would continue we can start with the trade deadline stuff while I bring up the graphic. So the trade deadline.
I'll just go with some.
Week. Yeah. But the trade deadlines this past week had some interesting trades that came across. Steven asked, which teams did well? Jake, you can go ahead and get started with teams that did well at the trade deadline.
For sure. The big team, and it's no obvious. I'm not going to try and pull some weird, deep hack here. The big winners of the trade deadline. They got OG earlier in the season. They had a really good month of January, and they seized on getting some really needed. Bogdanovich is a fantastic player. He's a guy that can fit into any roster. He can play, small ball 4-3. He can go white hot nuclear on any given night, which is his 3-point shooting. He's a great teammate. He was with my Utah Jazz for like 3 or 4 seasons, and he was one of my favorite players. He's a great teammate, and it really adds to their depth. A big reason why New York is a winner is up any trade, any of their picks. They really didn't give up any of their top players. They got rid of one player. Just me. I had it written down here. But they got rid of just one dude. And they got Burks, they got Bogdanovich. I mean, they traded second round picks, but I mean, how often round picks turn into actual players? They're more just trade assets. They did really good. They capitalized really well on the fact that they're playing well. The East really just with Embiid's injury, it's Boston, and then everybody else. As much as I like Milwaukee, everybody else feels like they could just completely go to the NBA Finals. It's pretty, 2 through 6 is pretty wide open in there, and I thought they were the big winners. They also got an Alex. He's a good swing man. I think he's shooting over 40% from 3. He's not a guy that's going to see major minutes, but if a guy like Alec Burke, guy off of your bench on a playoff rotation, you have a deep team because he can play multiple positions and he can get hot. He's very fast. I like what they did. So they're big winners for me. Again, they got Bogdanovich, they got Burks, they got Precious, and they only gave up Quentin Grimes. That was a name. That was their big loss. Like they for the cap hit, he's not any good. Quentin Grimes, yeah, it's a good player, but they didn't give up any of their other dudes. They have a great biggest winners of the trade deadline.
I mean, the only thing about what the Knicks did that I continue to think about is who in the front office all of a sudden had a 180 turn on Quentin Grimes? Because Quentin Grimes was the guy that was supposed to be part of a Donovan Mitchell trade, and the Knicks said no.
That's true.
Like
That's
they
true.
valued Quentin Grimes then. Then now at the trade deadline, they move him for Bogdanovich and Burks. Now look, maybe those two moves work out perfectly for the Knicks and they're better fits. I mean, I think Grimes was part of probably a bit of a log jam at a position. He was the easiest one to move, I guess. But I feel like Quentin Grimes is going to continue to be like a part of the Knicks roster because if they don't do it, they're going to question why they move him now without moving him for Donovan Mitchell. I guess if they get it done, they'll say it was the right move. And until Donovan Mitchell ends up in New York, which a lot of Knicks fans think he will, Quentin Grimes is going to continue to be a name that Knicks fans will remember. Now, Anthony's asking, you don't think Philly won? My thing with Philly was I get that they got Buddy Hield. On paper, good move. The worry, though, is did they get him assuming that Joel Embiid comes back by the playoffs? Because if Embiid is not back, I don't see the point of the Buddy Hield addition. That's just me, and maybe they'll prove me wrong. But we've seen the struggles with the Sixers without Embiid to the point where they've dropped down to like 5th or 6th in the East, and they have to be careful that if Embiid wants to come back and test the knee, and they're like a play-in team, I think Philly's going to have to make a decision on whether or not you bring Embiid back, expose him to possibly re-injuring the knee or something like that, or him coming back a little too soon for just a play-in team that may or may not make it out of the play-in tournament, then getting into the first round would be up against I guess a Boston or New York or Cleveland or one of those teams. If you bow out early, what was the point of the Buddy Hield deal? Because I think Buddy Hield is a free agent in the offseason. So unless Philly brought him in because they plan on paying him and then having him going forward with Embiid, I guess I would understand that. But I don't know if I would say Philly won the trade deadline necessarily because of that move. I just think the trade deadline was. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I'll say this for Philly, like it's a smart. I could see why they made the move. You always need good shooters in the playoffs. The big question is Embiid's health. I'm sure he's going to be coming back for the playoffs. He's super competitive and he wants to win. He doesn't want to be seen as a guy that just sits out because you're already kind of fighting that reputation. But you worry about the seeding, and then you worry about like it's a good deal. But when I think about the winners, I think about a lot of other teams that just did a bad trade. They didn't lose. It's more of just like this could just not lead to anything if Embiid is at 80% and 8 or 6 seed and lose in the second round again. Like if they lose in the second round, no one's going to look back at this Buddy Hield trade and say that they won. The only way they're going to see that this trade wins is Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, look, Steven asked about who won the trade deadline. I guess we could kind of look at not necessarily maybe losers, but maybe a trade that had you scratching your head as to why. And I'll say for me, I don't know what the Raptors are doing. I keep trying to figure out what they're doing. It almost seems like they're not going to quit until they have an all-Canadian team. That's why I feel like they're trying to go with this. Maybe it works out for them. I don't know.
There we go.
But I mean, I don't think Scotty Barnes is Canadian. Maybe he is. Who knows? But it seems like they're grasping at straws, I guess, to find pieces to fit around Scotty Barnes. Like I understood getting rid of Siakam. I said all along they needed to get rid of Siakam. They finally did that.
Yep.
But now it's like you have Scotty Barnes, you have RJ Barrett, you have Quickly. Then didn't they trade for like Kelly Olynyk or something like that? And it's just like,
yep, they got Utah. Yep.
And it's like, why?
Doesn't make
I don't
sense.
get
It
what
doesn't make sense that
I
they're
don't get what they're trying to do at
it feels
all.
like they're in this battle rebuild, complete tear down rebuild, and then try and acquire useful talent that can help the team win some games. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Look at the fact that if they would have made these trades last year, they would have gotten a lot more value because more years on the contract. They also could have traded Fred VanVleet last season, going free agency to Houston. So definitely a lot of moments where you're looking at Toronto and you're like, yeah, even if they're starting to do this rebuild, even if they could have gotten way better value if they'd done it, if they pulled the plug a year early. And it was obvious that this team wasn't going anywhere last season, and they just kind of out too long, and they're kind of losers. I'll put my big loser here is Detroit. Like what is Detroit doing? Like they
That's
did
another good question.
Bogdanovich, they traded Burks, they didn't get a first round draft pick. Like it's I was hammering last year on the podcast and said they did trade Bogdanovich. He's a highly touted, highly desirable player with a good skill set. He's older, but he's not super old.
Mm-hmm.
Rumors going around that he could get at least one first round draft pick, maybe two. That was kind of the rumors that were going out there, that he could fetch a price like that at the trade deadline. They're a terrible team, and then when they do trade him, it's for garbage. It's Grimes, who could turn into a good player, but and around picks, like if you're Detroit, you want draft capital. That's what you want to do. And so that trade really didn't make any sense to me. And also that they waited. I'll just say this: I think Chicago lost. Like they didn't make any trades, and I just don't know what they're doing. This team is not working. This team it. DeMar DeRozan is going to leave, and he could fetch something. He could fetch some sort of asset to a team. Alex Caruso has been saying for years that Alex Caruso is a viable player, that he could go to a lot of teams and net you at least one first round draft pick, and you don't trade him. Like it just didn't make any sense. I don't know what Chicago's trying to do here. This core isn't working, and they're going to lose some of their players in free agency that they could have gotten back for the rebuild. And so I think Chicago is a big loser as well.
Yeah, I feel like there's a few teams that were kind of in Chicago's boat. Atlanta. We heard all this talk about DeJounte Murray on the block. They do nothing. We heard about Sadiq Bey on the block. They do nothing.
Yep.
Some people, like myself, floated out trade Trae Young. That never happened. They got Clint Capella. Didn't move him. And I don't know what they're doing. Charlotte, I'll give Charlotte credit. They actually went ahead and sent some pieces away, because I was afraid that they were going to be a team that's going to sit around and hold on to some guys that needed to be moved. They moved Gordon Hayward. Look, I feel bad for Gordon Hayward that he's kind of just bouncing around now, because I've seen how great of a player he is. It's just you can't trust his body to hold up. But Terry Rozier gets moved. He goes to Miami. He's having some issues there. PJ Washington got moved. So at least Charlotte's kind of doing something. But yeah, like you said, teams like Detroit, Toronto, Atlanta. Like what path are we going down here?
What are we doing? That's the thing. Like Charlotte lost a lot. They have Rozier, Gordon Hayward. I mean, look, I'm a Utah Jazz fan. I love Hayward. I was gutted when he left the Jazz and went to Boston. And it was even though I was angry, devastated when he had that ankle injury on that first game with Boston. Like the Charlotte Hornets, for as much crap as we give them for being a badly run franchise, they looked at what they had and they said, "What are we doing? We have Rozier, we have Hayward. These guys are getting paid a lot of money. We're not winning. We're not competing. What can we do to kind of fix this?" And they chose a direction. They chose to be sellers and to kind of play to rebuild through the draft. They have some good talent with Ingram and with Lonzo. That's not what Detroit did. Detroit could have been in a much better situation this year if they traded smarter, or last year if they took advantage of a higher demand for those players. And they're left with this. And we're just looking at these teams like Detroit, like Toronto, like Chicago, and just the best question is what you said. What are you doing? It's either go for a complete rebuild or go for tools to retool your team and make a push for the playoffs. You don't want to be in the mid. You don't want to be a middling team because then you're nowhere. You're not going to get where you want to go if you choose that path.
Right. And I mean, Jory came back in here. Lamel's not that good. I've been saying that since he got drafted. Look, all the talk about him being some revolutionary offensive player. Yeah, he was dropping 70 in high school by playing zero defense and barely getting across half court. Anybody could do that. So Charlotte's going to have to kind of figure out, is LaMelo the guy? And if he's not, they're going to have to do something about that. But they did bring in what they brought in.
Contract's going to be hard to trade is the problem.
That's also a big problem. Yeah, and he has kind of the issue Lonzo has. He gets hurt a lot. Not as much as Lonzo, but he's been hurt a lot early on in his career as well. But yeah, look, they got Grant Williams and a couple of pieces. I think they've won 2 games since then. So I guess Grant Williams was the missing piece in Charlotte. Although Mitch Kupchak stepped out. So
yeah,
I mean, this season they forced Jordan out, and now Mitch Kupchak's gone. So take that for whatever you want, Charlotte Hornets fans, if there are any out there. Try to see if there's another team or something. Well, I mean, look, maybe it was a bit of a surprise that the Lakers didn't do anything, because I know a lot of talk was about them bringing in somebody. They chose not to. Now, you could look at that as maybe the right deal wasn't out there. Maybe the asking price was too much on their end or on prospective team's end, because it does seem like whereas the first round pick used to be the coveted draft pick back in the day, for some reason, everybody's in love with second round picks. And that's coming from a Celtics fan where the Celtics have like 10 of them. And Brad Stevens loves them for some reason. But first round picks, nobody was trading those. It's a weird NBA, but I get it. I mean, I kind of get it because of the new like salary cap structure and the penalties and all that. You're kind of going to have to start hitting on second round picks because they're just a cheaper option than a top of the first round bust that ends up sitting on your books and just hampers what you can do in terms of roster construction. So I kind of get it in that way, but it's just weird not seeing first round picks get traded.
It is. And it's weird that the Lakers didn't do anything. I thought they'd be in play. You look at the Lakers salary cap with some of the players that they had, D'Angelo Russell, they kind of for a good salary for a max type of player to move the salary around. It didn't happen, but I'm just assuming that they, like you said, the asking price was too high or they didn't have the right offer. Maybe a team like Atlanta didn't want to trade DeJounte Murray. They wanted to see if they could make it work because it did give up a lot to get him. Kinds of conversations we're never going to be privy to, but it was a surprise that the Lakers didn't make a move. I was kind of expecting, LeBron, as much as I like him, to kind of force action to happen at the trade deadline just to improve the roster and make a push for the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people thought maybe Denver might make a move, which I mean, I think what Denver has right now is pretty good, but if they were able to bring in, I don't know, maybe like another big or something. Because look, DeAndre Jordan, for the couple of minutes you put him out there, he doesn't embarrass himself. But I just don't know if they can get production out of him in the playoffs. Like last year, they didn't really get a lot out of him, but then they would kind of break glass and throw him out there like in the finals or something. He was pretty productive. And maybe they're banking on that again, but I don't know. The activity at the trade deadline wasn't a quiet trade deadline, but it was just like a lot of parts that got moved that, just like this guy in the end of the bench here got moved for your guy at the end of the bench, and let's hope that maybe they can turn into something over here where you couldn't get him over there. So, I mean, it is what it is. I will say, like my Celtics moves. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I mean, We've had more exciting trade deadlines. We've also had a lot more boring ones. A few years,
Yeah.
probably like 6 years ago, the NBA trade deadline was like, why would you make a podcast episode about the NBA trade deadline? There was nothing that would ever get moved for it. So at least now some meaningful players get moved around. We do see some action, but it definitely wasn't as exciting as we had hoped for. But again, I think the Knicks just hit it out of the park. They did great. If Grimes is up and you get everything that they had, you have to be feeling pretty happy as a Knicks fan right now.
Yeah. I mean, for the Knicks, their biggest issue is going to be who can they get back from the injured list, because they don't have Randall, they don't have Hartenstein, they don't have Anunoby, who they just got. He's hurt. And those are three big pieces. So they need to get those guys back before they can, I guess, fully see what they're capable of. I mean, I did put up Sajan's comment about the Bolts and the Bruins. Sajan, I get it. You're a Bolts fan. I mean, you didn't have to do that for me as a Bruins fan, but we'll see by the end of the night if you post any more score updates, because then I'll let me know the Bruins probably have the lead. But I digress from that. Let's see. May get some trades at the NFL draft, though. Maybe. Yeah, well, actually, yeah. We usually get some of those.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't think any big trade with Chicago, though. I think it's just smoke. But we could talk about that in a couple of weeks. We got plenty of time to talk about the draft.
Yeah. George said that's because Tibbs run. Yeah, Tibbs is old school. If you are a starter, he's expecting you to go 40, 42 minutes and not have a problem with it.
Yep.
I mean, maybe that's why his teams kind of fall off in the playoffs. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe he's learned from his mistakes of previous seasons. But yeah, so I think we've exhausted the trade deadline. I mean, I would love to give you some more Xavier Tillman talk, but I don't want to bore the people. But we'll move on to the NBA All-Star Game. But let's do a quick word from the network.
What's up, everybody? It's Cottrell Simpson with Wire to Wire Sports Podcast, where we're going to cover all things breaking news, sports related. We're going to preview games, and we're also going to give you our reaction to the games that have happened before. You can catch us on Wednesdays from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And if you miss us there, no worries. You can also catch us on Roku with Northeast Streaming Sports Productions from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Hey, and listen, if you're not into all sports and just NFL, we have Sideline to Sideline. That's on Thursday nights from 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 8 p.m. We'll break down the NFL week, the Thursday night game, and we'll preview all NFL action.
And if you're like me and college football is your fix, tune in every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. for Coast to Coast College Football pregame show. We'll review the previous week's action, the day's biggest games. We'll give you our pick'ems, and we'll even give you some teams that are on upset alert.
And if you don't catch us live, you can download us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to your podcast. We do also have a YouTube station, Wire to Wire Sports Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, that's Wire to Wire. Make sure you check the guys out here on the network tomorrow night, starting at 7 p.m. And like they said, they'll give you NBA, NFL, college football. Like they'll touch on it all. It's very entertaining. So make sure you tune into them. So like I said, NFL season, Super Bowl gone. Now usually the week after you get your All-Star game. We learned about the rosters and everything. We also learned about who's going to be taking part in some of the fun events like the 3-point and all that. So we'll go ahead, go through kind of who was announced, and I guess we can quickly talk about who we think might win. I'm going to try the graphic again. I think I have it up. Let's hope this works. There we go, just like magic. All right, so the slam dunk contest is where I wanted to start because we have Mac McClung, who put on a show last year. Not a lot of people remembered him. We remembered him kind of in college for his dunks and like his YouTube videos and everything. Once he got to the league, he's kind of forgotten about until last year. He's back in it. You got Jaime Jaquez, who's come on for the Heat this season. You got Jacob Toppin, not Obi Toppin. Got his brother Jacob. And then Jaylen Brown might be the surprise of the four because we usually don't get star players to do the slam dunk contest. So the first question would be, who do you think wins it? And two, even if Jaylen Brown doesn't win it or whatever, is the fact that he wanted to do it a good thing for the NBA?
Sure. I'll answer the second part first. Jaylen Brown wanting to be in the contest is huge for the NBA. This is the slam dunk contest is usually one of the most exciting contests of All-Star Weekend. It's what brings people in. We think of a lot of historic moments from it, like Jordan's dunk, Vince Carter's dunk. We have Aaron Gordon, Donovan Mitchell. A lot of players, even if they're already can gain more prominence, gain more fame from the slam dunk contest as opposed to the 3-point contest. Even if the 3-point contest is more entertaining and shows better whatnot, the slam dunk contest is kind of the old tried and true big moment for All-Star Weekend. And having guys that don't play a whole lot or even G League, I don't want to say it lessens it, but it makes it harder to get invested, harder to get excited, harder to be like, yeah, this is worth my time. And so Jaylen Brown, who's a household name, going into the slam dunk contest definitely adds a lot of attention. Hope we can get other players in next season. They're like, well, hey, if Jaylen's doing it, and let's say Jaylen doesn't win, and people move on after a day and don't hold, Jaylen Brown didn't win the slam dunk contest. He lost to Matt McClung. Like, no one's going to think about that, 2 days after the slam dunk contest. Maybe it can cause and make it more exciting. With that being said, as far as for who's going to win it, I'm going to go Jaylen Brown. I'm going to go with he plays hard. He's a physical freak. He's strong. He's tall, and I think he came into the slam dunk contest with the attitude of, I'm a superstar and I want to show why superstars should be in the slam dunk contest. Why we shouldn't be having guys that aren't household names in dunk contest. I'm going to go in there, I'm going to win it, and I'm going to kind of raise the floor for the slam dunk contest. And so I'm going to pick him to win.
Okay. So yeah, I think it's a great thing that Jaylen Brown's doing it. And like I said, even if he doesn't win, I think if he can like pull off a dunk that kind of wows the crowd, I feel like that would be good enough. And maybe does force some other guys to step up and get into this competition. And I'm also going to say this before I give my pick. If these guys go out there and pull off dunks, I don't want to hear like Kenny Smith and them be like, "Oh, we've seen that dunk already." Ugh. The human body can only do so much. So even if Jaylen Brown were to pull out some dunk that, I don't know, Dominique Wilkins did back in the 80s, if Jaylen Brown does it clean, then give him credit for that. It's to the point where some of these judges and people who watch the slam dunk think it's NBA Jam and these guys are going to start doing stuff like that. It's not going to happen. So let them go out there. If they can string together really good dunks, we don't have guys going out there attempting the same dunk 15 times, then, clap for them, cheer for them, and move the competition along. That's the one thing I'll say. But I'm intrigued by Jaylen Brown because, yeah, he's a high flyer, but he's kind of like a power dunker. And I kind of wonder how the crowd in Indianapolis will take to him as more of a power dunk. I mean, he dunks over people. I don't know if he'll incorporate that in some point during the contest, but because of that, I feel like he'll probably come up short. I kind of want to say Mac McClung does it again. I feel like for him being a smaller guy, I feel like smaller guys already have a bit of an advantage. And I feel like he probably has more in the bag than what he did last season. So I'll say Mac McClung repeats. But I would love to see Jaylen Brown win it.
Oh, for sure. I could see McClung repeat. Guys definitely have an advantage just by the judges. And to your first point, I'll just say that when it comes to those and how they're judging everybody, you can only reinvent the wheel so many times. There's only so many ways you
Yeah.
can dunk a basketball, and to be expecting some brand spanking new thing every year is it's insulting to the players. It's insulting to the greatness and the talent that they have, and genuine as to how good they actually are. So they just need to take a chill pill. Like, just yeah, there's only so much you can do, and we can't expect to do or NBA jams slam dunk contest. Like, come on, we don't need that. That's unrealistic and unfair.
Yeah. So I will say, last thing before we move on. So Jaylen Brown starts a wave of stars wanting to be in it. Who's the one player you'd want to see in the slam dunk contest next season?
I mean, this will never happen. So it's kind of a cop out, but Zion would be amazing just because his dunks are so awesome and he has so much power. But I'll say like John Morant. A more realistic option would be John Morant. Feel like he's smaller, he's explosive, he's super fast, super agile. He could be really good. Those are the two. Like Zion's never going to happen, but you know that if he did it,
Mm-hmm.
because everyone would be wanting to watch it. So otherwise, I'll say Ja Morant would be someone I'd love to see next year. What about you?
I could see John Morant doing it. I feel like he's a guy who would maybe a part of a way to rehab his image a little
Absolutely.
bit. Maybe he would definitely do it. The guy that I would love to see, Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards needs to get into this,
That
and
was the other
hopefully
one.
Jaylen
Those are the
Brown.
two guys. Yep.
Yeah, those two. Because yeah, like I said, John Morant's a great answer. But if Anthony Edwards sees this and goes, "I'm in it next year," it will become must-watch TV. Jory put AD kidding. Yeah, Sajin put Bobo. Look. All right, yeah, Bobo
No, no,
never gonna happen. But okay,
but Ja's a realistic option, and you make a great point. Like if he comes back next season, he's healthy, and he's like, man, I need to fix my image. If he goes out and just blows everybody away with how great he is in the dunk contest, everyone will just forget about everything else that he's done. Like it'll just, I love this guy. He's so great. It'd be the best PR move if he goes out there and just has an awesome showing. He doesn't even have to win it. He just has to have like two dunks that just go all over and Instagram and all of that.
all right, we'll see. Maybe we get some announcement right after the competition. Somebody goes, "Oh, I'll be in it," and build some intrigue for next year. But let's go ahead and get into the other events. All right, the 3-point contest. Simon said I had to throw it out there. I mean, I know. Bobo, look, Bobo's one of those names that anytime you talk basketball, somebody throws his name out there because the hype Bobo has and and all that. So I get it. All right, 3-point contest, which I've said before is usually my favorite one to watch. It's kind of weird not having Steph in it, but I'm okay with that. So looking at Malik Beasley, Jalen Brunson, Halliburton, Lillard, Markkanen, Mitchell, Towns, and Young. Once again, this is a competition that big names aren't afraid to compete in. So we're getting them here. Who do you have winning this one?
First of all, I'd love to see Lauri Markkanen win as a Jazz fan, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think Beasley. I can't think says Beasley has a great. I'm so all in on Tyrese Halliburton and how great he is and everything that he brings. He's also in. This is in Indy where he's from. I think that's gonna.
Yeah.
If I were to gamble on this, I'm going to put it on Halliburton. I think he can go the hottest. He's going to feel it. He's going to be excited. I worry about Anthony Towns. I've never trusted in a big spotlight, even if it's a 3-point contest. I know he's done well in the past and everything. I just have a hard time trusting him. Donovan Freaky Markkanen is great, but I don't think he's actually going to win it. And Dame's been good, but not great this year. So I'm just going to take Halliburton.
Okay. I like the Halliburton pick. I'm gonna go a little different here. I'm gonna go Donovan Mitchell. I feel like Donovan Mitchell's a guy. I guess I'll say this. With Donovan Mitchell, I feel like you'll either get a really good round, or he could be one of those guys that just flames out pretty early on.
Yep.
So I'll go Donovan Mitchell. I know some people. Sajan's been throwing Trae Young out there. I think Trae Young has kind of a Donovan Mitchell-esque about him, where if Trae Young starts off well, he could do well in this competition. But I think he's also a guy that if he were to miss, like at his first 4, he might be just completely out of it and just start, chucking up brick after brick. So Trae Young is intriguing. I think Lillard could make some noise in this, but I'll go with Donovan Mitchell.
No, that's a good one. And it'd be interesting if Donovan wins it, he'd win a winner of the 3-point contest and the dunk competition.
True.
I mean, I know they're just exhibitions and everything, but something cool he could say for being a well-rounded offensive threat. I do think, though, Trae Young definitely feels and it's one of those things where if it's not going in, he's not going to be able to recover. But if he starts off hot, he's just going to be able to nail, almost all of them. So I definitely could Donovan Mitchell. They're boom or bust type of players in this thing. They're either going to do great or they're going to do horrible. They're not going to be middle of the pack.
And outside of Halliburton, Brunson might get the biggest cheers because that guy is like everybody's favorite right now. And I'm interested to see how Brunson does. Yeah.
I love Brunson.
All right. So we got I'm going with Mitchell. You got Halliburton. Anthony put Beasley's winning it. Sajan likes Trae. All right, we'll see. We'll see how this goes. I was going to ask, who do we want to see? But we kind of get everybody in the 3-point contest. So there's no really reason to ask that one. The skills challenge, which luckily we're not getting the Tentacumpo team anymore. Oh, God, those are some rough watches. So I actually think they've changed the skills challenge a little bit, but I can't remember. Either way, we've got Team Pacers with Halliburton, Mathurin, and Turner. Yeah, the top picks of Banchero, Anthony Edwards, and Wembanyama. We know everybody's going to be waiting to see how he does. And then Team All-Stars, Scotty Barnes, Maxey, and Trae Young. Who do you think wins this one?
This one's a little tougher to gauge. I'm just going to go with team top picks. Wembanyama. Part of that's me just wanting to see these guys do well. I like Paolo. I love Anthony Edwards, and I want to see what Victor can do in a moment like this and see. And I just feel like they have the most talent. They have the most potential to really just kind of steal the show. So I'm going to go with them. Team top picks.
Okay. That's kind of where I was going too. I think that team's going to win it as well. Obviously, Team Pacers will be the favorite in the building, but I feel like Team Top Picks has a good mix because Wemby is a very agile big man. Anthony Edwards is quick with the ball, and Banchero, yeah, I think it's a good one. Who do you think comes in last?
I think Team All-Stars. I think the Team Pacers has enough talent and enough chemistry to work together to kind of figure out how to get this done. And I just think that'd be my pick. They're good players and everything, but if I have to choose between who's going to finish last between Team Pacers and Team All-Stars, I'll pick Team All-Stars.
Yeah, I agree. That's where I was going to go as well. Maybe I just wanted to get on Trae Young again, but yeah.
That's part
Barnes
of it.
did this. I feel like Scotty Barnes did this last year, or the year before, and he was horrible at it.
He was not good. He was not.
Yeah,
good.
so he needs to redeem himself. But yeah, I agree. Team All Stars come in last, and top picks will win it. Rising Stars. Now this one, they changed this a little bit from previous seasons. I think this is like the second or third year where they do like the teams and kind of like a mini tournament to see who comes out on top. It used to be sophomores and freshmen, but they did away with that. I like this format a lot better. So Team POW, you have, I'm not going to go through all the players, but highlight their team. You got Hawkes, you got Wembayama, you got Brandon Miller. Team Tamika Catchings, that's the Indiana flavor there. So you got Bancaro, Scoot Henderson, Keegan Murray, Jaden Ivory. Got Jalen Rose. He's got Matherin, Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams. And then Team Detlef Shrimp, another Indiana connection there. He's got a lot of G League players, although Mac McClung is on his team, so we'll see Mac McClung again. Who do you have taking this one?
I'm really excited to see how this plays out. This will get me to actually be more interested in the Rising Stars Challenge as compared to years past, where sometimes there's just so much going everything for the All-Star weekend. I'm going to go Team Pau. Team Pau Gasol. I think Wembanyama is really starting to kind of hit. Taylor is a really good player. That Hammer Hawkes and Jabari Smith. I think there's some good talent on here that's going to play really well into kind of this format exhibition game. Team Tamika is a close second. Those are the two that I'm really going between. I don't think Team Jalen or Team Detlef have as much firepower, but I'm going to go Team Powell for this one.
So I think Team Powell's going to probably be the favorite, but I'm with the chat. I think Team Tamika takes it. I like the makeup of their team. Bancaro, Murray, Ivy, Jalen Duren's been playing really well lately. Scoot Henderson's been coming on as well. I feel like if I'm assuming Powell and Tamika probably meet in the finals. I just have a sneaky feeling that Team Tamika pulls this one out. Like Team Jalen looks like they're okay, but I feel like they're too big heavy. And I feel like that in a situation like this, I think they're going to struggle. And to be honest with you, I don't know a lot of the G League Elite Ignite guys or whatever, so maybe they surprise. But yeah, I got to go with Team Tamika on this one. But yeah, I do like this.
Tamika's going to be.
I think it's much better.
Yeah, Tamika and Team Powell, they'll be the finals. You could guarantee. I'd bet my mortgage on those being the finals for sure.
Right. All right.
But don't gamble your mortgage because that's dumb. But I'm very confident in that pick.
Yeah. And then, of course, the big game on Sunday, East versus West. I mean, who do you think takes this one?
I'd go to the Western Conference. I think that there's just a little bit more talent there. It's a deeper conference. I like what they have there. LeBron's going to want to try and add some more stuff to his legacy. I know people don't really care as much about All-Star MVP and All-Star wins, but he definitely wants to have a good showing here to just continue to build his resume for dethroning Michael Jordan. And I just think they have the deeper conference and the better roster. But this is tough. This is one of those years where the East and the West is fairly well balanced. Previously, it's been one side or the other, but I'm going to go with the Western Conference to win this one.
I mean, I'll go East. I mean, not really a lot to break down in terms of, matchups and all this stuff. I'll just take the East just because, I don't know, it's 50-50 chance.
Because you're a Boston fan. There you go. You're a Boston fan. Go with that.
Yeah. But a question I do have is, will either the East or the West break 200 points?
I'm going to say no. I feel like that'd just be too much. Sometimes you need a little bit of defense, and I think that it's going to get teams are in the 170s, and they're going to be all right, dude, we can't give up 200. Can we try a little bit on defense, because we don't want to be the first team that's known as a team that gave up 200 points in the All-Star game. You don't want that on your resume. So I don't think anyone does it. I wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised if it happens, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Look, if we get 200 points in the All-Star game, fans will lose their mind. Seeing scores in the 170s is already setting some people over the edge. If we get 200, they may completely lose a lot of people on the All-Star game. Yep. I don't even know what they would do at that point. Like, you just embrace it, just like, oh, highest scoring ever, or you just be like, what are we doing here? Like, guys are just
I
coming
think they'd
out
have to
here,
embrace
getting
it
out
in
of
the
the
moment.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. They have to
Yeah, I kind of
embrace
hope
it
it
in the
doesn't
moment, but
happen.
then I don't want to see it either. Embrace it, and then they probably would have some sort of meeting in the offseason to try and repair the damage, find ways to make it more competitive, because you can't have a final score of 210 to 205. It's not going to be people still want to see defense. You know, the metrics may say offense leads to more viewers, but we still want to see some defense. I'm not playing 2K here. I want to watch actual basketball.
Right. Siding with the update. Bolts Bruins, no change end of the first. Okay. So the Bolts are still up 1-0. That's fine. The Bruins will come back in the second period. I'm going to predict a goal from Jake DeBrusk. So there you go, Sajin. That's for you. All right. So I think we've exhausted the All-Star game. So let's go ahead and take a look at the NFL. We'll get into the Super Bowl. But let's take another break with a word from the network.
Hey guys, it's Pavel the Cat.
And Evan Rev Reynolds.
And we are two guys in Hockey Talk. We are here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time to talk all things hockey. What are we talking about, Evan?
We talk KHL, AHL, ECHL, every HL hockey league you can think about, prospects, juniors, even the Professional Women's Hockey League.
Yeah, we love it. And we have a website, Two Guys in Hockey Talk. So give us a follow. We got articles on all things related to hockey, and we're writing all throughout the season. So make sure you tune in. We're also on X or Twitter. You can find me at hockey_2, and
you can follow me at RevanEv. Or you can also go to twoguysandhockeytalk.com to follow everything.
We love hearing from you guys, so make sure you tune in, comment, like, give us a follow on our Facebook and YouTube page. We love hearing from you guys, and it's a blast talking all things hockey, right, Evan?
Hey, man, it is. So, as we say every show, in the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, Two Guys in Hockey Talk, which will follow Wire to Wire tomorrow night. And I forgot I put a slide for this one because I didn't want to be disrespectful. So we'll talk about this before going to the NFL. Stephen versus Sabrina. They're having their little 3-point challenge. This may end up being the biggest spectacle of the weekend. I feel like this is the matchup that a lot of people want to see what happens. So just to let you know, Sabrina will shoot from the WNBA line with the WNBA ball. Steph will shoot from the NBA line with the NBA ball. I feel like that makes the most sense. So who wins this one? Who do you got, Jake? Sajin said Sabrina. What do you think wins?
Oh, I'm excited for this. This is going to be really good. And for anyone that's complaining about Sabrina having to shoot from the NBA 3-point line or use an NBA ball, like, no, use one ball, you shoot from one place for your whole career. That's what you should do for the contest. I have no issue with that discrepancy there. Is going to do it. I think Steph's going to be awesome. He's going to be great, but I think Sabrina really wants to kind of show and advertise that WNBA can be good, exciting, be really fun to watch, and they have good shooters. And I think she's going to come in really hyped, and I think she's going to win it, and it's going to be probably the biggest takeaway from the NBA All-Star weekend outside of the game. And this may then eclipse the game as the thing that people talk about the most, that gets the most hype, that gets the most news morning and all the sports outlets. So I'm going to take Sabrina, and this is one I'm going to make sure and actually watch. Like other things I might watch, not live or check the one I'm watching live. I want to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I think this is going to be a really interesting event. I mean, who knows? Maybe Caitlin Clark just walks out while they're about to start, goes, "I'll throw my hat in the ring," and it becomes even a bigger spectacle.
That'd be awesome. Like some WWE style, just comes in, her music hits, lights go off. Yeah, the lights go off, but she pops up at center court. I would lose my mind for that. That'd be awesome.
I mean, look, if this becomes like a really big success, Caitlin Clark could make her way into this somehow next year. But
for sure,
I kind of think Sabrina wins it. And look, shout out to Steph because I feel like Steph is a superstar who won't even care if Sabrina were to beat him. You know, a lot of these NBA players have an ego that they don't want to get shown up. They don't be embarrassed. I think Steph was going to have a lot of fun with this, but I do think Sabrina ends up winning it. And Steph will probably be the first one to congratulate her and talk her up. And I feel like that's why Steph is so beloved around the league. But yeah,
Yep.
I'll take Sabrina in this one.
Yeah, no. Steph's the perfect person to this first ever, guy versus girl 3-point contest because, like you said, if he's not going to care one bit, his ego's not going to be hurt. He's not going to act, not going to make excuses. If he loses, he's going to be like, yeah, she shot the ball better, and it's perfect. They couldn't have picked a better person for this this new 3-point.
Yeah. All right. So now we've gotten through everything on the All-Star. All right, I guess the last time to look at this pick scoreboard, once again, I don't know why I keep doing this to myself, but once again, we only had one game. I managed to be the only one to get it wrong. And, it's fitting. And the way I started the year. But,
Kyle, give yourself a little bit of credit. Brett did pick the Chiefs to cover, but the Niners to win. So, he did have that. Yeah, if you were to gamble money, but he still, if you're picking win-loss, he to win. Not trying to throw shade at Brett while he's at the Bucks game, but it may feel a little bit better. You and him both picked the Niners to win the game. You weren't alone in that aspect.
Sai just said I picked 23-19 Chiefs. I do remember that. Yeah. So you weren't too far off. But yeah, so you and Brett both got the Chiefs right. I messed up with the Niners, so you ended up 48-43-2. Brett 28-22-1. So he was 6 games over. You're 5 games over, and then 36-56-1. Yeah, this is the pick segments. We burn this tape next year. I will be much better. What's up, Gene? What's going on?
You'll be better next year.
Yes. This year was just, I don't know what happened. But anyway, let's actually get into the game. So the first thing we got to talk about is, I don't understand how in 2024 you've played 17 regular season games, you get to the playoffs, you played 3 games, get to the Super Bowl, you get to overtime. The ref sits there and explains the overtime rules and everything, and Juszczyk comes out with, "Students just want the ball because you score a touchdown and win." Like, bro, it hasn't been that way in a little bit because they even announced, I think it was like a couple of seasons ago, that overtime situation, both teams get the ball. So whatever. But let's just say the Niners are going at it that way. Then why did they kick the field goal on 4th down? Why didn't they just go for it if they assume you get a touchdown and you win? Especially with the way their defense was performing against Kansas City late in that game. Why leave it up to that defense to stop Mahomes from scoring a touchdown to beat you? I also think Shanahan said something like they were planning for the 3rd possession, where if they got the field goal, they'd stop the Chiefs, and then they would have the ball the 3rd time, and then with a chance to win it there. I mean, that's a bold strategy to have when you're going up against the Kansas City team that had taken all the momentum as the game was going on. But, I digress from that for right now. But looking at this, like, how's it possible that a player doesn't know the overtime rules? Does that speak to the coaches, or is that on Juszczyk for not knowing?
No, that's on. I mean, he should know. Juszczyk should know. He should be able to look up and pay attention to what the rules are. Known for a couple of years after that Chiefs-Bills game in the playoffs that in the postseason every team gets the ball at least once. But coaching staff, Kyle Shanahan, it's the lack of attention to detail that seems to haunt him wherever he goes, whether it's offensive coordinator in Atlanta or being the small things that just take away, little tiny things that just chip away, that if you want to be a champion, if you want to beat the there. If you want to beat Tom Brady, if you want to beat Patrick Mahomes, you have to be completely dialed in and have every box just checked off. And that goes down to coaching. Have 2 weeks between the championship game and the Super Bowl, and sometime in that 2 weeks you have to go over and say, hey, if we get to overtime, this is the want to do. This is how we want to have it play out. Now, I will say, as far as the Niners choosing to get the ball first, like in that specific scenario, there isn't. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation. Because let's say that Kyle Shanahan says, "Okay, we're going to kick the ball," because all the analytics, have said you should go for it second. Kind of like in college, your defense has just got. They're tired. They haven't been able to stop Mahomes. They were on the field for a while. You're not going to have a good chance for it. On top of the fact that Kansas City was getting really tired, they're getting really gassed. They had some moments to kind of rest while on the Chiefs' last offensive drive. You're going to give them enough to rest and kind of catch their wind. I totally see that happening. Kyle does make a little bit of sense of saying, hey, if we score a touchdown and they score a touchdown, death, and then we just have to go and kick a field goal. There's no right answer here. The big thing and the other thing you mentioned is why on fourth down. I just think it was a little bit too far. There was 4th and 4. They were blitzing pretty heavy. The offensive line wasn't able to protect Brock Purdy when they're blitzing really heavily, and 4 yards just feels like it's a little bit too far for Christian McCaffrey to get the first down and just kind of want to take the points. But then again, let's say they do go for it on 4th down and they don't get it. And then Patrick Mahomes goes, they just kick the field goal, game over, because Butker can kick near 60. So you only have to get to the 40-yard line. Not that far, not that hard to do. It just felt like there was no real except for the fact that some of the players weren't completely dialed in as far as how overtime actually works. I will say this, the only thing that for overtime was the way that the timeouts transitioned from the end of the first to the second overtime and how that worked. And it sounds like there was some confusion. Everything else, like I knew as a fan that each team got a chance to touch the ball. And so I don't know why Juszczyk didn't understand that. That part to me is
Yeah, I feel like the only part, cause I've seen some people on social media who were asking, like with the Chiefs with the ball, if time ran out in overtime necessarily before they scored, what would happen? Well, you just go to like a second quarter in overtime. They wouldn't just
you just
stop
change
the game
field.
because
They
the
just
Chiefs
go to
win.
the other end zone.
Right. Yeah, and I feel like that's a question from some fans. I'm like, I kind of understand that one. But for a player in Juszczyk like this, I don't get it. And even if that was the mentality, that's why I brought up why kick the field goal then? Because if you're assuming that you're taking the ball to score a touchdown to win it, then I was expecting to see you going for it on 4th down to put pressure on Kansas City. Because with that mentality, I would think if I kick a field goal, I'm assuming we're going to lose anyway. So why not just go for it on 4th down, where if we don't get it and Kansas City wins on a field goal, well, we're going to lose anyway by kicking the field goal and letting Kansas City score a touchdown on us. So I feel like that would have been a kind of a mindset like, okay, we're being ultra aggressive with this. Our play calling's going to kind of dictate that, but we didn't get that. So it is what it is. If the Niners find a way back to this position, I guess they'll be better equipped, for Shanahan's 4th attempt at this. Because Sajin put for him to go 0-3 in Super Bowls. He says the 49ers are done. I mean, I don't know if I would go that far yet, but it is kind of weird that Shanahan's been in 3 Super Bowls, 10-point leads going into the second half, and hasn't been able to win one of them. That's kind of a bad stat to have following you. So the Niners will definitely have a lot of pressure on themselves going into next season.
For sure. And one more thing I want to add, kick receiving or deferring. It just shows, again, lack of attention to detail, lack of a game plan, because the other thing that I thought of everything considered, Kyle Shanahan probably should have deferred if you win the coin toss. And the big thing that neither of us have mentioned so far is if you kick second and let's say Kansas scores a touchdown, you know what you have to do to win. And that's what the Chiefs did. They knew that San Francisco scored 3 and Kansas says, okay, we know what we have to do. Go for it on 4th and 1. I think they were inside their own 40-yard line. They were like the 35 or 36-yard line. So if it's 4th and 1, you're like, hey, because we can't punt it because the game's over. Where if they had gotten the ball first, it's 4th and 1, they're at their own 35-yard line. Are they gonna they're going to be risky knowing that they just have to get a stop and then they can try and score again? So it's a whole mentality of you're playing with an extra down if you go second because you know what you have to do. And again, this just shows that the Niners didn't have the attention to detail. They didn't have a game plan that was super detailed. Whereas the Chiefs, all the interviews have said, we were doing training camp that if we're in the postseason, we want to go second. If we score a touchdown, we're going for 2. Like if it comes to a tie in that situation, we're going to go for 2. Like they were talking camp in the preseason, and here in the Super Bowl, the Niners weren't on the same page, and that's on coaching, 100%.
Yeah, or somebody was asleep in the analytics department because I feel like if you look at it analytically, deferring the kickoff in overtime makes way too much sense to not do it. Because like you said, at least with you having possession second, you know what you need to either extend the game out or win it. So they dropped the ball in this one. But let's go ahead and talk about Travis Kelce and Andy Reid. Look, a lot of people want to talk about the bump that happened. Just one simple question. Are some people just trying to make a big deal out of a non-issue here? Or do you think that maybe was a little bit that Travis Kelce was in the wrong, I guess, in his approach to Andy Reid?
It's both. Like if no player should go up to the coach and like bump into him, it's Andy Reid or Dennis Allen for the same. Doesn't matter what head coach it is. You shouldn't go and like bump into them and make that physical contact. With a player being fired up to the head coach and saying, hey, what are we doing? We saw Tom Brady do it a whole bunch. We've seen Peyton Manning do it a whole bunch. Like these guys doing that. So yeah, he shouldn't have done it. There's no excuse for it. But I'm not going to make a story out of it because they've moved on from it. Like Andy Reid and Travis Kelce made up. They're cool with it. They don't have any issues. And so if they're cool with it, then I'm cool with it. Shouldn't have happened. And I think a lot of it happened with the hate that Kelce has. A lot of people are just getting kind of tired of seeing him on TV so much. But well, I didn't like when I saw it, but it doesn't need to be a story heading into the offseason.
Right. I think with this one, well, let's see. Anthony said he was in the wrong. Andy Reid almost fell over. Jory said if it was AJ Brown, how would we react? Sajin says very unprofessional on live TV. My only thing is, it'd be a bigger story if they lost.
Yeah,
the fact that they won, I feel like everybody's ready to push it under the rug and move on. And it's obviously easier for Andy Reid to play it off because they won. If they had lost, the narrative would have been, this was a point in the game where Kansas City was starting to look a little desperate, and they weren't ever able to recover from that and get it done. But they completed the comeback, got the win. It's all kumbaya in Kansas City. So yeah. So I guess that kind of answers Jory's thing. If it was AJ Brown, the only problem is the AJ Brown blowups we've seen were during kind of like the slide of the Eagles. So we reacted a certain way because of that. I would say if AJ Brown did this in a win, maybe it gets half a second of attention, but the win would be a bigger focus than the blow up, I would say. So
what's the old saying that winning cures all wounds or whatever, winning heals all fights, things like that. Like they won, so it's the bridge.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. But look, I agree with you, side and saying unprofessional on live TV. Yes, Anthony talking about he was in the wrong because
100%.
Andy Reid almost fell over. Which I mean, if Andy Reid did fall over, maybe win or lose, it might have been a big story. But because they won, not that big of a deal. And George said he always throws a tantrum when it's new. True. He was doing that while they were winning. AJ was. That's right. Yeah. Good point. Well, I was saying kind of in this situation of it being the Super Bowl, because I think because of the impact of the game, I think fans understand that emotions run high. So if AJ Brown was in the situation and did it, that's what I was saying. Like if they won, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But if AJ Brown had done it just the same way Kelsey did and they lost, I feel like it would have been a bigger story. But maybe you're onto something, Jordan, just the fact that it's AJ Brown, that even if he did it in a win, maybe people would have been more on him for whatever reason. I don't know. I'll just say because of the Super Bowl, you win, nobody cares. If you lose, then it's a bigger deal. Same thing with Juszczyk. Like his comment about not knowing the overtime rules. If the Niners won in overtime, we would probably laugh off Juszczyk's comment. But the fact that they lost in overtime, I think Juszczyk's point has created a narrative about the situation in San Francisco overall, just not being prepared for the biggest game of the season, if that makes sense. Anthony says, when have you seen a player do this? I mean, bumping a coach, no. You know, Jake brought up Brady. Like we've seen Brady, you know, on the sideline when he sits down, he might yell at Bill O'Brien or, you know, Edelman or something like that. Actually going up and bumping a coach, yeah, I haven't seen that. Like I said, I'm not downplaying what Travis Kelce did. It's just the fact that because they won, it's not going to be a story that we hear all offseason. Like if they lost, they would have talked about this and been like, oh, how's that relationship between Reed and Kelce? Like, is it fractured or something?
Right.
That's the only thing I'm saying.
Yeah, and the fact that both guys have come out and said that, you know, they're each other, they love each other, like they've moved on from it. Travis Kelce said, you know, a lot of things where he, you know, the only thing I wish Travis would have done has been like apologize. I've done that, but they've acknowledged it and they've squashed the beef that they had there, and so we should just follow along and just that.
Mm-hmm. Now I will say, if Kadarius Toney had done this, now we might have a different situation because of who Kadarius Toney is on the team, the seasons he's had. Like Travis Kelce's the captain. He's one of the best players on the team. Not that big of a deal. Because I was just thinking, like, if we're in a Super Bowl and Brady bumped Belichick, I feel like I don't think people would really look at it that way because of Brady being your best player. And I feel like Belichick would play it off as well. But if it was like a punter who went up and bumped Belichick, then yeah, to be like, dude, you're the punter. Like, go over in the corner and kick into the net or something.
You're cut mid Super Bowl. We'll find someone else to be the punter. Like, you're out of here.
Right. Belichick would purposely just go for it on fourth just not to run the punter out there.
There we go.
So Jory says Shanahan and Harbaugh and the lack of attention to details and the inability to adjust, they should be twins. No arguments there. Jake, like you said, they don't care because they won. Yeah. Tony got a ring for sitting at home. He did. I mean, has anybody checked his Twitter? Or X, I guess we're supposed to call it. He's probably had something to say about it. Tony might end up on his couch soon.
Yeah.
He'll end up somewhere. Might see him in the UFL for all we know. He'll become the biggest star the UFL has ever had. Probably drop passes there as well. But yeah, so now focusing on the game here. Chiefs get the 3-point win. So we'll start with the Niners. What was, I guess, to you, what was the biggest factor in them losing this game this past Sunday?
For sure. First of all, I just want to say this Super Bowl was super boring for like the first 2.5 quarters, and then
It was,
Super
yeah.
Bowl was awesome. Like, I don't know how it flipped the way that it did. It was crazy, but I'm just sitting there watching with my dad, texting my buddies who live across the country. Man, this game just sucks. Like that was the mentality. And I wasn't alone in thinking that. And then by the time overtime ended, I'm sitting there with my dad, and I'm like, "Hey, so," and he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "What?" And you have to kind of process like, "What? How did it go from being bad to great?" But for the Niners, there's a lot about the missed extra point, and that was a bit the block extra point, and that was a big part of it because it changed going from a 4-point game to a 3-point game. There's the overtime decision that they thing with that. For me, though, I felt like this game really turned on its head. The first 3 drives that San Francisco had in the third quarter, right after you go into halftime, you're making your adjustments, you're up 10-3, and everyone that's watching that game knows that San Francisco should have been up at least, felt like they were at least, or maybe 14-3, bare minimum. They were playing better, and the game felt like it was bigger than a 7-point lead. And you also have to Mahomes and Andy Reid are going to do at halftime. You have way more time because of the halftime show to make your adjustments, and everyone's kind of waiting for the Chiefs offense to come and have some good mojo, have a good drive to start, and kind of get back into the game. First play, they do a weird pitch thing that's a fumble that they recover, and then the very next play was an interception that Patrick Mahomes threw. And it felt like at that moment, the Niners had all the momentum. The Chiefs, any moment Chiefs had, to start their drive, start their second half was completely gone. And the 49ers went 3 and out on 3 straight drives. And I'm almost positive all 3 of those drives were all pass plays. There was not one single run play involved in that. Christian McCaffrey is their best player. He's player, and they didn't adjust. They just went pass, pass, pass. And that was their chance to really just the Chiefs away. That was their chance to create separation, to make the Chiefs feel like they had to overcome a bigger deficit than what they were currently facing. Maybe they tighter. Their strategy definitely changes from how they want to play. And I felt like that's where the game was lost. There were so many moments, yes, where they could have played. They definitely could have, the blocked extra point is big. The overtime and how they handled that was big. Anthony says the green line injury was huge. That was huge. When they showed I called it, don't want to brag or anything, but I'm like, oh, that's his Achilles. And my dad's like, oh, I think it's his knee. I'm like, no, it's his Achilles. You could see it pop. And that's a big factor, and it sucks to see. But for me, the Chiefs are, I think they're a dynasty with this win, but they're like the Patriots where they're so well prepared. They're so attention to detail, everything that they do. And we saw with the Patriots. And what's the big thing there are 2 things that made the Patriots great was, they capitalized on any mistakes their opponents, and if the opponent let them hang around, they would come back and find a way to get back involved in the game. Moments where Tom Brady would be down, but they wouldn't be down enough. A team couldn't fully put them away, make the game too far out of reach, and and that's what the Chiefs are doing. Where you put them away, you feel like, oh man, it's just one more touchdown, one more score, even a field goal is just gonna seal the game. Too much for them to overcome. And if you don't put the Chiefs away, if you don't, if they're down and you don't just step on their neck to kind of they're going to find a way to get back in the game. And for me, it was those 3 first drives where they just couldn't figure out their offense. They weren't running the ball very well. They weren't using Christian at all. And interestingly enough, after that, those 3 drives, the offense did start to kind of pick things up. We saw they scored a touchdown after that crazy fumble situation that really sparked the game to kind of get more exciting. The Niners did start to figure things out, but if they'd done that earlier in the game, I think they
Yeah, I mean, look, I was going to bring up those drives as well because that was definitely a big part of it, especially the one where they got the interception because they had short field and then they weren't able to move the ball. I think they had like a penalty to actually move them
They
back.
lost drive.
Yeah,
They lost yards.
and that was the drive that if they wanted to take control of the game, getting the interception there and putting points on the board would have killed Kansas City's momentum. But the play I'll look at is the punt where it was it McLeod is back there. He's telling everybody to get away, and the ball hits like the instep of the Niner blocker. And then McLeod, instead of jumping on the ball and just securing possession, tries to run with it and pick it up, ends up losing it. Kansas City comes out the very first play from offense. He hits was it Scanling in the back of the end zone for the touchdown. That got Kansas City going. If that doesn't happen, I don't know if we're sitting here talking about a Kansas City win today. So that was the play for me that I felt like the Niners completely lost it. But yeah, the drives you talked about were definitely big parts of them losing grips on this game as well. And also, like you said, the first half they should have been up by more than 10-3. Like that seemed like the most lopsided 10-3 half we've probably seen. And the fact that Kansas City was able to hang in there, that speaks to also, like you said, that's something the Patriots would have done. Find a way, even if they didn't play their best half, to still have it be a game in limbo. So yeah, that's from the Niners side. Yep. Let's go to the Chiefs side. I guess I'll say outside of Mahomes, because obviously you give the quarterback all the credit in the world with the win. What was the biggest aspect of the Chiefs, I guess, that aided them in this win? Whether it's a player, a unit, who are you giving the game ball to, we'll say?
Again, outside of Patrick Mahomes, because he was sick, it's the Chiefs defense was just completely lights out. They were awesome. I'm a huge Patrick Mahomes fan, but the Chiefs that game, they absolutely kept him in the game. They held him to 22 points, 19 points in regulation. If you do that in a Super Bowl, you should be winning the game. Absolutely should be winning the game. So the Chiefs defense played fantastic. Chris Jones was just amazing. He blew up on that I think it was of regulation. No, it was last play of overtime that the Niners had, where they have like three guys that are open, and he just comes through and rushes the throw, so it's easily a miss. It doesn't get the sack for it, but that was a huge stop by Chris Jones. Played really well. And there was one more, the name just left. Their other corner that they had was just amazing. He made a couple of really, really good. Trent McDuffie was awesome.
Trent McDuffie.
Yeah, Trent McDuffie was awesome. I almost dropped an F-bomb because he was so good. There was one touchdown where Brock Purdy threw a really good ball into the end zone, and he jumped up and he batted the ball like midair, knocked it down, saved a touchdown. He also had in one of those last drives that forced a field goal, was 3rd and 4. He came through on the blitz, rushed Purdy. The ball had no chance of ever being. Those two guys were fantastic. The whole defense played absolutely fantastic, but Chris Jones and McDuffie just completely shined. And so I want to give them Bucker was awesome. He's a stud as a kicker. But as far as like who won the game, it was the Chiefs defense. They played, and it's a very Brady-esque kind of a team where the defense plays great. They have a game plan, they stick to it, and they stay, no matter how poor side of the ball plays, they're in the game, and they're well coached enough that they can take advantage of mistakes and be in a position to win the game and win the Super Bowl. To me, the identity you want to have of a dynasty, and the Chiefs have it. That defense was phenomenal.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The defense. I mean, I'll go a step further. I'd give this Spagnuolo for his defensive game plan.
Yeah,
but McDuffie was outstanding on the back end. I definitely agree with you there. Like, he was blanketing Niners receivers all night. He had a few pass breakups, which were huge, and the blitz, like you said, on that third down was timely. They hit it really well because even though he was a little bit closer to the line, but he didn't look like he was coming on the blitz. But because obviously Purdy wasn't accounting for him, that's just great design by
He
Spagnuolo.
backed up like a half step.
Yeah.
Like if
And
you
then after the
watch
snap,
it, he
yeah,
creeps up
took one
and then
forward.
he takes like a half step back to fool Purdy. It was amazing.
Yeah. And that just speaks to the preparation from Spagnuolo and his ability to come up with a game plan to stop what a lot of people looked at as a Niners offense that can give teams problems because they have so many guys that they can feature. I mean, Kansas City kind of wiped out a lot of them. Although I will say for the Niners, to give them a little bit of love, Juwan Jennings had a great game for the Niners. He had the touchdown pass to McCaffrey on a pretty good trick play there. And he also had some big catches for the Niners. I think he only had like 4 catches, but the 4 were
Every
really
catch
big catches. He had a touchdown.
huge.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. So I give Jennings some love there. But yeah, Spagnuolo and that defense were definitely the
I
shining
want to ask
moment
you a
for
question,
the
Kyle,
Chiefs.
about I want to ask you a question about Spag because he's been a
Okay.
defensive coordinator for 4 Super Bowl. Was a D coordinator for the Giants when they beat the Patriots, and then the 3 times they have here. Do you think we could ever see him being in the Hall of Fame just as a coordinator? Because he wasn't as awful as maybe people make it out to be, but he wasn't good. But you look at there's never been a coordinator that's made to the Hall of Fame just coordinator resume. But it feels like if like Spag might be the guy that could kind of break that because his defenses are just so dynamic, so unique, and they've led to 4 Super Bowl wins, either as underdogs or big comebacks in both of those instances. So I just
That's
see
I
what
mean
your
that's a
thoughts
good
are on that.
question. I would think if you were going to let a coordinator in, Spagnuolo might have to be the guy because, like you said, the defensive output he had against the Patriots alone would probably be like a bullet point on his resume that probably would get him in automatically. But looking at what he's done after that, and especially this game here, I think it'd be difficult to not do it. Now, look, if it's just something where because he's not a head coach, maybe he doesn't. I understand that coordinators getting in over head coach is a little weird, but I feel like if you are seen as one of the best as a coordinator, why not? It could just be, look, not every coordinator is built to be a head coach. That doesn't affect their greatness as a coach. He's just a really good defensive game plan, creator. I feel like that should be rewarded.
It absolutely should. There's some guys just aren't great. I think Dennis Allen, who I've been calling to get fired as the head coach for the Saints forever, I loved him as our defensive coordinator. He's awesome. He's fantastic as a head coach. Not him and Spag. I think also he's done it with the Giants. He won with the Chiefs with a bad defense because they didn't have the talent. Then they thing and just the way that he disguises everything. It just, if any coordinator is going to get in based on just of their coordinator skill set, I think Spag has the best for, because 4 Super Bowl wins, that's not a lot of coordinators even have that, and I think it should be rewarded. If you're like the very best defensive coordinator, that we should be in kind of that mindset. I know like a lot of people think of Dick LeBeau as being the best defensive coordinator. If you're in that mindset, you should be rewarded in Canton.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And plus, I feel like you should probably respect the fact that maybe he's just come to grips with that he's just a coordinator and that's all he wants to be in the NFL. So yeah, I think
maybe
he should get
he
in.
wants to win rings and just likes playing defense, and he's great at what he does and he enjoys it and he wants to collect rings. Like, I'm not a guy for excelling at what he does and not wanting to do something he may not like.
So Sajin, I see you put the Bruins tied it up. I'm just saying. Now, did Jake DeBrusk score either of the 2 goals? Because I did throw his name out there. Let me know if he did. All right, if he did, I might have to become a hockey content creator if my predictions are that much better in hockey.
Yeah, got your voodoo doll for that, right?
All right, so we talked about. Okay, so Marchand. Okay, that'd have been the easy guess to say Marchand. I wanted to go a little bit off the books. All right, so looking at Mahomes, I feel like a lot of people are asking this question. This win now being his 3rd in 4 attempts. He's 3-1 in Super Bowls. But they're already talking legacy with him, even though he still has many years to go. Where does he now rank all-time list for the quarterback position? So those of you in the chat, this was a question that was brought up on Cheap Seats. I gave my answer over there. I will give you the same answer here. But I'll let Jake, I'll let you go first. Like, where do you put him on the all-time list
For sure.
after this win?
So I love these discussions, by the way, like all-time lists and all that. There's so much fun things you can do with that. I will say, if he retired, to be a first Hall of Famer, no doubt, even with just being 6 years as a starter, like first ballot Hall of Fame. For me, Brady, and he's going to be number 1 for a while. Like Mahomes, if Mahomes ever does catch him, he has to get those counting stats, not just the Super Bowl wins and playoff wins, but you have to get the counting to get kind of up there for it. Sure. For me, the lowest I can put him is 3rd. Right now is 3rd. I go between. I think I'm going to put him at 3rd right now. I have Brady number 1. I have Joe Montana number 2, and I have Patrick Mahomes number 3. To me, that's the top 3. The way I can do it is Brady, Montana, and Mahomes are the only players in NFL history to have multiple regular season, multiple Super Bowl wins, and multiple Super Bowl MVPs. There's only been 3 people that have ever done it. Add in the fact that Patrick Mahomes has 1,000-yard passing seasons, and the fact that when you watch him play, it's just like he's the best guy I've ever seen throw the football. Like Tom Brady but Patrick Mahomes just does things that just don't make any sense. And the fact that he's doing this at age 28, only six seasons in as a starter, I put him at 3rd, and he could easily go up. If he three-peats, then he goes up to number 2. It's a fun discussion, though, because you could look at it and, you told me what your answer was, and I totally respect it. I don't have any arguments with it. But for me, it's 3rd just because of what in such a short period of time, considering, in 6 seasons, the worst he's ever done is just losing the AFC Championship game. Like that's pretty. His reason is losing the AFC Championship game, and the fact that he brings these guys along for the ride that don't look for places, right? Like Hardman was great with them, goes to the Jets. I can't figure out how to use him, and then he's great again here. He got VS his psyche back. Like, how great of a teammate is that? Where you could easily throw him under the bus. Kadarius Toney wasn't used for the Giants. They got a Super Bowl win. Obviously, this season he fell off, but he can bring guys along for the ride. I have him 3rd, and it's a tight question between him and Joe Montana because they're just greatness, and it's so great to watch them play because you can just see the greatness that's there. But I'll let you go for your pick.
Okay, so you have him 3rd. I have him a little bit lower, but not necessarily too far. So I have Brady, Montana, like you said. I have Manning 3rd. I had Elway 4th, and I put Mahomes 5th, like right ahead of Marino at 6th. So I think with Brady, like it's like you said, it's not just the Super Bowl titles. He has 7 of them. It's not just the stats. He's like throwing over 90,000 yards and all that. I think with Brady, kind of what we'll probably see about Mahomes by the end of his career, it's the guys that he blocked from winning. Like, because of Brady, Manning didn't win as much as he probably should have. Same with Big Ben, Phillip Rivers. Like, there's a lot of really good quarterbacks then that didn't win. You point to Brady as the reason why. And like I said, with Mahomes, you'll probably say the same thing. Like, let's say Burrow never gets one, you'd say Mahomes probably did that. Josh Allen, Lamar, all these guys. Montana, I mean, being 4-0 as a Super Bowl quarterback definitely accounts for something. And, he was seen as the GOAT for a long time until Brady came along. So I still got Montana too. Now, Manning at 3, I did question that one. And I think for a lot of people, they'll look at Manning, and I'm one of these who brings this argument up as well. He has 2 Super Bowl wins. The second one, he was basically a non-factor. And then even with the first one, he beat maybe the worst Super Bowl quarterback we've seen in Rex Grossman. So, I mean, it's not the best resume to have, but the other intangibles with Manning are why I put him third. All of his running the offense from the line of scrimmage and all that, the stats he put up, I gave him 3. I put Elway 4 because I think Elway has a lot of stats there. He was pretty successful. I think he won 2 rings as Elway did.
He won 2. Yeah, he won 2, and I think
he went to a third one.
I don't know if he lost at least 2. I think he's 2-2 in the Super Bowls.
Yeah, something like that. But even with Elway, I could easily put Mahomes 4th and Elway 5th and been like, yeah. So those two I feel like are kind of the same line right now. But if Mahomes were to win another one within like the next 2 or 3 years, he doesn't necessarily have to do it next year. I would easily put him ahead of Manning. And maybe at that point, you're questioning him against Montana. I still think he has a little bit more work to do to get to Brady. I know a lot of people want to put him up there already. I don't think he needs to win 7 to probably pass Brady, but he'd have to get to like 5 at least.
I think 5 is the number.
5. Conversation.
If he gets to 5, if he goes 5-1, gets, let's say, one more MVP, continues these huge stats that he has, that's when the discussion happens. If he gets to 5, and the only other quarterbacks that are in this discussion that have won that is Montana has 4. Terry Bradshaw had 4, but no one puts him in that conversation really.
Yeah,
just him. If he has 5, it's just him and Brady, and that's when the conversation, I think you can make legitimate arguments for Mahomes in that spot.
Yeah, definitely agree with you. Okay, like I said, that's always a fun conversation to have, and
it is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
we'll see.
Maybe you want to say about
maybe this time next year we revisit it and see if our numbers are different.
For sure. For Peyton Manning, though, does get a little disrespected because of his playoff performance. He, so many seasons they'd start off hot and lose in the first or second game they would play in. Not the best record in the Super Bowl, but I mean, Mahomes may end up beating this, but Peyton Manning's the best regular season quarterback we've ever seen. Like year in, you felt like he was always the best of the regular season, had these great stats, and like you said, changed the game from calling offenses at the line of scrimmage and the adjustments that were there. Doesn't get the respect that he deserves because his playoff performances weren't great. So glad that you're able to give him some respect there.
It was tough, as a Brady fan. Manning's always been that guy. It's like, I think people are a little bit overblown. But because, look, this is the last thing I'll say about Manning. A lot of people give Brady crap for the division he played in. Got to remember, Manning was in that division early in his career. And then they restructured the AFC and put the Colts in the South, which really helped Manning take off because he struggled in the AFC East with the Patriots and Dolphins and all that. So that move definitely helped Manning's career. That's the only thing I wanted to say because a lot of people were like, "Oh, the AFC East with Brady was terrible." The AFC South was an expansion division when Manning first got there. So yeah,
bad.
All right. So we got about 10 minutes left. I guess we'll leave this for kind of stuff outside of the game. Yeah, you get the halftime show, commercials, whatever. I guess we'll start with the halftime show because I feel like a lot of people have been I mean, this halftime show's kind of turned into some polarizing experience. Like you'll hear people who thought it was good to great. You have people who are like, it was hot garbage. Why did they pick Usher? So I haven't heard anybody who's like in the middle and says it was okay. So where do you stand on the halftime show?
It was a good show. I enjoyed it. I'm I'm not the biggest Usher fan. I like his hits. I've heard his hits. I'm not going into the deep Usher or anything like that. But when the songs came that I knew, it was cool to see. I liked the guest. Like Ludacris was, I think, had the biggest when he came on. That was the best part of the show. The dancing was really good. Like he still has the moves for it. It didn't start off great. I thought the audio mixing was really rough, and
Yeah,
you
the
couldn't
audio
really hear
was
Usher.
off. Yeah.
And that's not on him. That's on the production team. So I'm not going to do that. But it was good. Like I don't try and take too much investment into this. So I just want to be entertained, and I was entertained. Is it my favorite? No, like it wasn't my favorite. 2 years ago when they had Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and all that was probably my most favorite recent one that they've had. That one was amazing. Yeah, Prince with Purple Rain was great. I think Lady Gaga's was few years ago. Like there's some ones that have been like top tier, but they've also had ones that are a lot worse. Like Adam Levine's was pretty rough. I didn't much care for that one. He's had one that was pretty bad. So like it was good. I was entertained. It wasn't great, but I was entertained. So I enjoyed it.
Okay. Anthony put, you think Alicia Keys went home safe? Look, her husband Swiss Beats said it's all good. So we'll leave it at that. Sajid said Katy Perry.
Katy Perry's was really awesome
was,
too.
Was pretty good. It gave us Left Shark.
Awesome.
I mean, you can't deny that. Yeah. So this one
also for Usher, we got a lot of
go
good memes too. Like with all those Usher and Alicia Keys things, there's a lot of good memes there too. So that always makes for entertaining Super Bowl
There you go. It's the gift that keeps on giving after the show ends. Anthony says MJ was the best. I feel like that's kind of the consensus at this point that Michael Jackson had the best halftime show. Or I guess some people might say Prince. It's 1-2. You can't go wrong either way. But yeah, I'm like you. When it comes to Super Bowl halftime, I just want to be entertained because, the same people who may not like hip hop artists or R&B artists doing halftime, there's people who won't like a rock artist doing it or something like that. So they're never going to hit on somebody who's universally loved, except maybe Michael Jackson and Prince. But so you're always going to have those who love it and those who hate it. For me, like you said, I like Usher's music. He played songs I knew. I was good. I thought the roller skate part of it was pretty cool.
That part was legit. I mean, that part was
right. And if you'd seen kind of Usher later in his career, I guess he's incorporated roller skating a lot. He's done like a lot of roller skating videos. So we knew it was going to make its way into it at some point. So I thought that was pretty cool. Like I said, the Ludacris thing was good. Alicia Keys, I was wondering how that was going to come across. I thought it was fine. I know a lot of people are talking about, holding and whatever. It is what it is. It's Usher. It's what he does. It's part of the act. But yeah, so I had no problem with the halftime show. Anthony says, I hope it's Lil Wayne next year. Sure. Why not? I guess we'll start speculating. I mean, if we want to kind of keep going with the conspiracy theory, shouldn't it be Taylor Swift? I don't know. It's the era of Taylor Swift apparently. So I guess maybe next year's her year to do it. Who knows? But
maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Side says, I don't care who does the Super Bowl halftime as long as you're talented, real talent. There you go.
Yeah.
I will say, her making an appearance, I appreciate that as well. I like her, and she had a little moment there. I didn't know she was going to be there. It was a good surprise. It's New Orleans, so you think of Lil Wayne. That's a good point. It would make sense if you're going to have Lil Wayne do it, and New Orleans would make sense. All right, so look at the halftime show. So we got 5 minutes left. Commercials. Any of them do anything for you?
I mean, the thing that really stood out to me is how many were in the commercials. Like that one, it's like every big commercial had tons of celebrities. The Temu commercials felt a little excessive. Like that was just kind of look at
I
bone.
mean,
The two, yeah,
they
it was
must have paid a
come on.
lot for all the spots they had.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to make that money back, but the two that I remember that stand out the most, the Dunkin' Donuts commercial, with where I had it was just fantastic. Like that one made me. It was that one got me engaged into the commercial, and then I think it was the Uber Eats one that had Jennifer Aniston and her.
Oh yeah.
Where he came up and he's like, "Hey, so good to see you." And she's like, because the thing is, you forget something once you learn how to Uber Eats, and she's like, "Do I know you?" And made me laugh out loud. I thought that one was really cute, really well played out. The rest, it just fairly unforgettable. But those two are the ones that I remember from the Super Bowl overall as commercials.
I definitely agree. The Dunkin' Donuts
you?
one was the one for me. I love the Dunkin' Donuts one because I feel like there was a commercial before the Super Bowl where Ben Affleck goes into the studio and he's like, "Oh, just wait, and you'll hear the song he's been coming up with." Then they played it off with the commercial. Yeah, I thought Jennifer Lopez's reaction was good. The fact they had Tom Brady in it was hilarious, and even Matt Damon. Because we all know when you think of Ben Affleck, you think of Matt Damon.
You think of Matt Damon.
Damon
That
was that
great.
friend who was like, Matt Damon was a friend who was just like, "I'm just here to support you. I don't agree with what you're doing, but I'm a friend. I'm going to be here for you." So I thought that was definitely the best one. The Uber Eats one was pretty good. The T-Mobile one, I guess, with Jason Momoa singing was another one I think
that one was pretty funny.
Was one you probably remember.
Pretty good.
And I know that they had like the E-Trade one with the babies talking. I feel like those are always kind of funny. So I definitely go with that one. I thought that was the Backstreet Boys. I mean, if you thought that, then Ben Affleck did his job. How did Temu get commercials? Their sales going to skyrocket. I mean, for all the spots they had, it better skyrocket. Otherwise, that's an epic waste of money that they put out there. Okay. I mean, we got about 2 minutes left. Somebody in the chat wants to throw out one last question. If not, we'll probably wrap it up here. But actually, let's do a quick word from the network before we get out of here.
Hey, y'all, I'm Key.
And I'm Jory, and tune in to Hoop Dreams and Touchdown Queens every Saturday at 5 p.m. over on Sports Empire Network.
And don't forget, also watch us on Roku TV at Northeast Streaming Productions. So tune in.
All right. That's Hoop Dreams TD Queens. You catch them on the network on Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern. All right, then. Looks like chat's got nothing, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Jake, got anything to say before we get out of here?
Great season. Really grateful to be a part of this podcast, this team, to discuss the whole season that we had. It was really exciting game. And then, I'm just don't want to take up too much time, but the Chiefs, they're a dynasty. You went back to back. You win 3 in 5 years. They're a dynasty, and it's their league, and they're kind of running it. And it's exciting to see where things go from here.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would call them a dynasty as well. Sijan said, "Thanks, guys. Fun show. Appreciate it, Sijan. We try to entertain you every week." But yeah, with that, this is the big three. Myself, Jake, Brett should be back next week. Make sure you tune in next week, 7 p.m. If you want to watch a replay of it, you can check us out on the Roku TV channel, Northeast Streaming Sports Productions, tomorrow at 1 p.m. Other than that, we're going to get out of here. We'll see you next week. Enjoy the rest of your evening, night, and yeah, we'll see you next week. Good night.